Hi, I'm Ray Grijalva.
And I'm Anne-Marie Grijalva.
And I'm not a Grijalva, but I am John Storr, and I'm a friend of the Grijalvas.
And this is
The
Joy
Joy
of the Faith. Welcome to our first episode of our Spotlight series, which is a new thing we're doing where we have friends like John spotlight in our episodes so that they can share how the joy of the faith and us and God and greatness has impacted their life.
Yeah.
So
Looking forward to it.
I know, we're looking
Me
forward
too.
to it. So the first question, we'll have 3 questions every time. The first one is, how did we meet? The second is, what have you learned from us of the joy of the faith? And the third is, what would you like people to know? So our first question, John, is, how did you meet us?
Well, I recently had moved here about a year ago from New Mexico, and for about 4 months, I had started going to daily mass and sort of struggled with finding friends, I guess, here. And so one day, I went to daily mass at Christ the King Cathedral, which is downtown Lexington. And as I was leaving mass, I heard footsteps running up behind me. And I was like, oh man, what do they want? They're going to ask me for help with something. And it turned out, I turned around and it was Ray. And he said hi, introduced himself, and then started inviting me to different youth events that they had here in Lexington.
And you initially thought I was crazy, right?
I did not initially think it was crazy. I just was like, what does he want?
But over time you realized.
What did I do?
And then the first thing actually I think they invited me to was called ID916, which Ray can describe.
I'll make videos on it, so we'll make videos on that in the future, but it's a super awesome young adult group that we started in Lexington.
And that's where I first met Anne-Marie.
It is. It was awesome.
And life has never been the same.
Nope.
It's been great.
Awesome.
And then second question is, what have you learned from our channel, The Joy of the Faith, or from us?
So actually, Ray told me to watch a video on Joy of the Faith. It was one of the first ones on the purpose of life. And
Yeah,
the purpose of life
Purpose
is
of
to have a relationship with God and figure out how to help other people get that relationship as well through your relationships with them. And so that at that point, for those first few months being here, I had focused on myself and going to daily mass and adoration. And at that point, I realized that I needed help with that. And in one of your later videos, you had mentioned piety versus charity. And so at that point, I had the piety, but I didn't have any charity going on, so that wasn't good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The videos, and of course meeting Ray and Anne-Marie have helped a lot with both my development in my spiritual life and that kind of thing.
Awesome.
Great.
Tell them about how we met your brother.
So I have an identical twin brother. He actually just entered the seminary last week. One night I came over for dinner with Ray and Anne-Marie, and I found out that they were going to New Orleans for a trip. And it turned out that same Sunday, my brother was visiting from Jackson, Mississippi to New Orleans to visit the seminary. This was back in November. And so I told him that night, you should visit my brother. And so they got down there and they met him at Mass and Eucharistic procession.
Yep.
And then they met my brother. So
Yeah, and then we were at the seminary for like 6 hours, so it made up a huge bulk of our trip. If we wouldn't have
awesome.
known John, we would have met Ryan, so that was pretty cool. But what's really neat about John, and the reason we have him on first, was because, on first, is that John, out of anyone, has been like the most supportive of the Joy of the Faith. Like a few weeks into meeting him, he was like, Ray, if you ever need financial support for the Joy of the Faith, let me know. And I was like, holy cow, what person do you know your age is like willing to donate for a YouTube channel that you just started, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And
Plus,
then,
I don't set the bar too high, so anyone after me, that's why I'm on first.
There we go.
That's funny.
And John has been awesome, like being like one of like our probably like best friend that we've ever had. In that like he's very like specific and like intentional with what he does. Like we had my sisters over for Christmas, and like he was coming over and he got them all Christmas gifts, which was very considerate. And he actually did a scavenger hunt throughout the house. John knew that I love scavenger hunts somehow, so that was actually pretty neat. And Ray
loves surprises.
Yeah, so it was really cool, and I always talk about in my videos, and John mentioned before how I chased him down after Mass, and that was really cool. I've chased down many people after Mass, and there haven't been too many consistent people like John that are always like there for us and stuff like that.
I'm unique.
He
You
is
are.
unique.
You're
And,
wonderful.
One of two.
What a two. And it was really cool. Anne Marie could attest to this. We were standing over there one night. We had John over, and we got him involved in our men's group and stuff like that. And John said, and this is like never happens, but he was like, "Ray, I'm really glad that you came up and Anne Marie and like really got to know me and get me involved in stuff, because he'd been here for like 5 months, and he mentioned before how it was like hard to find friends, you know, because like it's hard to find friends when you move around and like to build that community. And he tried at different churches and the gym and everything like that. And it wasn't until we reached out and, you know, helped get him in the community that he'd really have that. So that was really awesome. And it was really like touching to Anne Marie and I, because so often like you impact people's lives, but you never hear about it. And not that you always should hear about it, but it's super cool that people like John brought it up. And the third question is, what would you like people to know about faith or life or whatever?
So I think what I would like to talk about, definitely since moving here, I've realized how lonely people in our culture are. And one thing that I had before, but I never took advantage of, was the Adoration Chapel. Here at Christ the King, we have an Adoration Chapel, so it's open 24/7, and you can go whenever you want. And so during the first few months of being here, I discovered how important the Adoration Chapel is.
Yeah.
I was talking to my brother recently, and he said that how are you supposed to know God if you don't spend time with him? And so recently I've been going, if I go to daily mass or anything, I'll go over to the Adoration Chapel, maybe 5 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe sometimes an hour. And I will just go in there and lay down all the stuff that I'm going through at work or in life. And it's a moment where you don't have to worry about everything. You're just at peace. And you get to spend it with someone who loves you more than anything. So I have a quote by Pope Benedict, which I really like. Is it okay if I share it?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So he says, this is something to realize when, I don't know, you're feeling down, or I know there's a lot of people who feel like they're not valued, especially at work, and, well, I guess in life in general. But he says, Pope Benedict says, "We are not some casual and meaningless product of evolution. Each of us is the result of a thought of God. Each of us is willed, each of us is loved, and each of us is necessary. So not only are we loved, but each of us individually are necessary, even though other people may not show it."
That's beautiful.
That is really awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, John.
No
And
problem.
joining us for this first Spotlight episode.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
So, hope you all liked it that are watching. And I'm sure John's going to share it with his family and friends. So, John's
Yes.
family and friends,
Shout out to you.
Yes. you have an awesome family member.
I'm okay. But I'm blessed with a good family.
You are. Hope you all have a wonderful day. And God love you.